In this video, we'll talk about the future of selling on Amazon. Our guest today will be Anthony Cofrancesco from DataDive, and he will give us a roadmap for the next 24 months, which will help you to plan how you can achieve the best ROI in your Amazon business in the coming months and coming few years. So it will be a quite interesting session. And let me bring our guest. Hello, Anthony.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Good to see you, Augustus.
It's nice to have you again on our channel, Anthony. And please let us know a little bit about what company you are representing. What is DataDive? We don't really have many videos on our channel about DataDive, so that's the reason you are here.
Absolutely. So DataDive is a all-in-one software tool for Amazon sellers that helps you do just about everything you need to do for selling on Amazon, but it's going to help you do it about 4 times faster. And so the presentation today is going to be talking about some of the strategies that you can implement to get a better ROI out of your time. I'm going to show a little bit of the DataDive tool, talk a little bit about the history of Amazon. So super excited.
Yeah. And while Anthony is preparing to share his screen with the presentation, I wanted to remind that DataDive is a quite innovative tool for Amazon sellers. Amazon sellers started to talk about this tool maybe like maybe 2 years ago or 2-3 years ago. And since then, it's really popular. A lot of sellers are starting to use more and more. And if you want to try yourself, you will find the link and I believe an offer below in the description of this. So check this out. And during this video, during this session, if you enjoy the content, don't forget to click like and subscribe below this video. And now I think, Anthony, we're ready to listen to your presentation.
I'm going to keep the presentation actually pretty short today and spend some time going through the DataDive tool. I can't see how many people are on the live stream right now, but once we get past the presentation, if someone has an idea for a product or a product that maybe they're currently selling or they've sold in the past, I'm going to do a live example using DataDive on a little bit of what this optimization workflow would kind of look like. But first thing that I'm going to start off with is what I call the future of selling on Amazon. And we're going to go a little bit into the history of selling on Amazon and what I think is the direction of this industry over the next, the next 24 months. So for those of you who we haven't met in person, I've known Augustus for years now, ever since his Sellerfest Lithuania event. This is years ago. So I've been in the industry since 2016. I actually started my career working at Amazon. I actually launched my first product on Amazon before I started working there full time. And after I had been working there for about a year, the guy who taught me how to sell on Amazon, a buddy of mine from college, he gave me a call one day and he said, "Why don't you quit your job at Amazon, move out to the Philippines and help me scale this creative agency that I have called Virtuous Graphics?" So I was already a college dropout. I thought, this is a bad idea, but I knew I'd regret it if I didn't end up doing it. So I quit my job, moved out to Manila, and over 2 years, we grew that team to more than 30 full-time creatives. We were one of the first agencies in the industry that did conversion optimization. So everything from photography, video, graphic design, copywriting, everything for the listing. And so we exited that.
And actually, Anthony, this is how we met. In 2019, we were doing Sellerfest Israeli event. Actually, it was the first event where we met. And there was this company, Virtual Graphics, suddenly asking if they can sponsor our event. And yeah, and you came with, probably it was that partner which you met, which you were mentioning. So yeah, and since then, we work together. And so continue with your journey because some people know you from different companies.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was a really cool experience. We got to work with hundreds and hundreds of clients over a 2-year period, everything related to conversion optimization. So we exited that business in 2019 to a small aggregator based out of Southeast Asia. And I could see that e-com was only going to stick around. It wasn't going anywhere. And so I approached the guys over at PickFu. We had collaborated with them for the creative agency on a few case studies. And I thought PickFu was a great tool. Not very many sellers knew about it or were using it. And so I told the guys at PickFu that I'm going to make sure everyone in the industry knows about split testing, A/B testing. So I worked there for 2 years. And then after that, I approached the team at Seller Systems and then Data Dive. And I've been working for a little over 2 years now, scaling that business and getting to work with some of the largest agencies, some of the largest aggregators, and some of the largest sellers in the space. I think the really cool thing about Amazon is the freedom that it gives you. So it's not just all these cool events that I get to go to, all these sellers that sell the craziest products that are doing very well, but also the ability to go skiing and go and fly my drone. And so I try to have a good work-life balance and really enjoy it.
And Anthony, we have maybe a spoiler question. Sam is asking, will Data Dive intro a tool that will find product ideas using AI rather than doing the usual manual looking for them?
We'll cover that a little bit. Right now, Data Dive isn't going to go proactively find products for you. You have to already have a product idea that you would bring into the platform. And I'll show you a good bit of the platform today after we get through the introduction.
Okay, so Sam, stay with us. All right, let's continue.
Cool. So we're talking about the future of selling on Amazon. And how I like to preface this is, if you think about the business model of selling on Amazon, it's really easy to explain. It's really easy to wrap your mind around. And it seems like it's a really great opportunity to make a lot of money, right? You've got these shoppers, these people that are ready to spend. They're looking specifically for products. And all we have to do as sellers is virtually source low price products from around the world, stick the listing up on Amazon, and it's a perfect combination, right? These people are ready to buy, you stick a product up on Amazon, and we're going to get rich, right? It's just a really good combination. So it sounds really simple. It sounds really easy. And it's true. Some sellers make unimaginable amounts of money. People that I've known for years, just the amount that they're able to generate in terms of revenue and, more importantly, profits on a monthly basis is just astronomical. You can see here, this is from a Jungle Scout State of the Amazon Seller Report for 2024. You can see that there's some people that are making, $10,000 to $25,000 a month, 7% of the total Amazon sellers. But up at the top end, there's people that are just making huge amounts. We're talking like $1 million plus in revenue. But the reality is that competition is serious, even for sophisticated sellers, maybe even especially for sophisticated sellers. And this chart here is from a Marketplace Pulse survey. And basically what they did is they tracked the top Amazon sellers over a period of 7 years. And as you can see here, you can see that there's a pretty big drop off. In fact, only 20% of the top Amazon sellers retained their position after 7 years, and 40% left the platform entirely. So there's a huge opportunity to make money, but there's also a huge amount of competition on the high end. What we've also seen over the last few years is that pouring huge amounts of money and talent into an Amazon business also isn't the solution. If you've been around the industry for a while, I'm sure you've heard of these aggregators, these private equity funds that raise millions, sometimes billions of dollars to go and acquire Amazon brands, get the smartest people from around the world to work in these businesses. And even they weren't able to figure out this very simple business model, right? You have Bentago Group here. They declared bankruptcy back in September, raised $335 million, weren't able to figure it out. Thrasio is a very popular example as well. They raised $1.5 billion, one of the fastest companies to reach unicorn status, hired graduates from MIT, Stanford, really, really smart people to come in and manage these brands. And even they weren't able to figure it out, declaring for bankruptcy just this past February, at the end of February. So that's on the top end, the more established, the more sophisticated sellers. But it's not like it's the problems are only exclusive to the top sellers. It's also the people on the bottom end. You'll see people on YouTube, people with courses that try to tell you that selling on Amazon is super easy. and it's a lot of hype. So you can see here we've got some thumbnails from gurus posing in front of the Lamborghinis. The reality is the business might be simple, easy to explain, but it's difficult to execute. There's a lot of actions that you have to take and that you have to get right in order to do well. So this is the same graphic that I was showing you before. Obviously, there's people on the high end that are making huge amounts of money, but the reality is the vast majority of sellers really don't make that much money. You can see here that this is under 500, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 500. And you're getting this recap here that 52% of Amazon sellers are only making $1,000 a month, and 30% are reporting sales in excess of $5,000 a month. So huge upward potential, but there's also a majority of sellers are gonna fall into the smaller groups. So the reality is that selling on Amazon is a simple business model, easy to explain, easy to wrap your head around, but it has high levels of complexity, and those levels of complexity are only getting more and more complex. On top of that, selling on Amazon is more competitive than it's ever been, and the newsflash is it's only going to continue to get more competitive. And so what I want to do now is walk through what I call the history of selling on Amazon. This really, in my mind, gives us an idea of where we're moving into the future based on where we've been in the past. And so I break down the history of selling on Amazon into 4 main categories. We have the Wild West, which is, I'll get into each of these individually. We have the Wild West, we have the early days, we have the aggregator boom, and then the software boom. So I'm going to go through these one by one. For people that have been in the industry for some time, you'll probably have some nostalgia thinking back to these times. So Wild West was really everything before 2016. And at this point, Amazon, it's not a new platform, but you start seeing a surge of all of these brand new products, brand new sellers coming to market. Really, the thought here was with Amazon is that they wanted to fill the platform with every conceivable product that you could imagine, in not just the US, but a range of international marketplaces. So the thought in the Wild West was really get any product on Amazon, you're going to make money. There's very low competition. The very first Amazon FBA event that I went to, this would have been back in 2016, a legitimate strategy for launching products that I learned at that conference from a buddy of mine, Will, was to go and order 100 sample quantities of products from Alibaba, list all of them up on Amazon, and out of those 100, see which ones performed, and then only go back to the ones that perform well and build a listing, try to build a brand around that product. Obviously, this would be a really bad strategy now. The level of competition is just way too high. But back then, if you could just find search demand, stick a product up, marginal listing, not really a lot of back-end work, not a lot of experience, you could make legitimately good money on Amazon. Once the store starts to get filled up a little bit, we start to have every conceivable product imaginable on Amazon. Now we start to shift into what I call the early days. So this is from roughly 2016 to 2019. And this is really where you start to see advanced strategies becoming essential. You couldn't just find any random product listed up on Amazon without a lot of knowledge and experience on the platform and do well. You really had to start to understand things like conversion optimization. You really had to start to understand things like PPC. You had to put in a legitimately good product that was better or differentiated than the other competitors that already existed in the market. So we're seeing advanced strategies. This is where you start to see Amazon courses. You start to see Amazon conferences become big, a place where people can learn about the new strategies, learn about how to grow their brands. And really sellers at this point, the ones who executed just on fundamentals, were able to do very, very well. We saw this a ton at the agency. You had sellers that they had never optimized their listings before. They had been selling for years, and then suddenly they put a little bit of money into creative, and then surprise, they were able to beat out competitors just from having better listing images, A+ content, etc. And so the photo here, the picture here, this is all AI generated art, is like, okay, now the store, it's not so crazy. It's not the Wild West. You're starting to see things get a little bit more organized. Amazon is really starting to now, for the first time, crack down on terms of service violations. There's not as much of the review manipulation. You had to have good fundamentals that are going to get your brand to grow. Now, in 2020 to 2022, this is what I call the aggregator boom. And this is what I was talking about just a moment ago with those two aggregators that had declared bankruptcy. Basically, right around when COVID is happening, right before COVID, I remember this well, you start to see for the first time these larger private equity companies have a hypothesis that there's all of these individual Amazon brands out there, and they're doing well, they're getting cash flow, but they're all run by individuals or small teams run by essentially a solopreneur. So they thought if we're able to go and raise a ton of cash, these businesses are already making money, they're already profitable. If we invest in putting really good talent into these businesses, we use economy of scale to be able to buy inventory, to ramp up pay-per-click campaigns, to do more elaborate creatives and conversion optimization, well, we can dominate all of these individual sellers. And so at first, this worked really, really well. And it not necessarily from the talent that they were putting into these organizations, but it was just at that time, e-com was blowing up because it was COVID. What we later found out, and that's why it's saying here on the screen that it's going from a boom at first, and then now we're recovering from a bust, is because what we essentially saw is that going and getting a bunch of 6-figure plus salaried employees, massive teams. At one point, Thrasio had thousands of employees, from what I understand, that wasn't the answer. That growing the business and putting a ton of resources into an FBA business made sense, but only if you could do it profitably, right? If you're going to increase your cost 10x, you better be able to increase your revenue and your profits 10x as well, or else you're going to end up in a situation where things are not good from a financial standpoint. So that was from 2020 to 2022. I think now we're safe to say we're out of this aggregator boom, and we're in what I think is one of the final stages of this trajectory of selling on Amazon, which is what I call a software boom. So this is 2023 and beyond. And what I think is characterized by the software boom is we realized during the aggregator boom that putting unlimited amount of time, money, and resources into a business wasn't the answer, that you had to do this growth in a smart way. And so this is all about smaller and smaller teams leveraging software to run ultra lean and ultra profitable businesses. So smaller teams getting a better ROI for the time that's being spent and growing legitimately good brands thinking long term. So that's kind of where we are right now. Now, early on, this is before, you could really win on Amazon by being proficient in just one or two categories. So this is what I was talking about earlier, like in the Wild West and in the early days. If you came to Amazon, and you can see here, we've got this is the average, let's say, of a niche. If I came to Amazon and I launched a product that was just a really good product, a legitimately good product, let's say it's a little bit better than what's currently there, or it's differentiated a little bit. And let's say that you had content, your images that were above the average of the niche, you could really be proficient in just like one or two categories, and you could dominate that niche. You could easily become the best seller, even if you weren't as competitive, or you didn't really understand PPC well, you weren't as competitive on price. Where things are going now is that just to compete at the bare minimum, you'll see that the average level has just gone up across the board. So it's not enough to just come in and say, hey, I have a really good product, or I'm really good at PPC, or I'm really good at content, or I have the lowest price. Now, just to compete, just to compete at the average level of the niche, you really have to be doing just about everything perfectly. And then the sellers that are the only sellers that are really going to do well and dominate a niche are significantly better than the average of all of the sellers in not just one, but in multiple categories. And so that's, I think, the introduction that I want to go through right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a live example of showing how Data Dive is used. The takeaway, though, I guess, from all of this is, and where we are now, why tools like Data Dive make sense is you got to think of Amazon as this really, really big machine, this really, really big math equation. And there's all of these different levers that you can pull, right? You have your product is a lever that you can pull, how good your product is. The price of the product is a lever that you can pull. Getting more reviews is a lever that you can pull. Pay-per-click advertising is a lever that you can pull. Images, main image, lever. A+ content is a lever, right? You have all these different levers that you can pull. What I've found is that the sellers that are doing the best are able to quickly look at their business and see how much, to what level they're pulling each of these individual levers in their business. And when one lever is not pulled to the max amount, they're going and saying, hey, what do we got to do to see if this is going to move the needle? So for people that are not doing any external traffic, for example, that might be a lever that exists, but you're not pulling it at all. So you're going to focus on external traffic. For PPC, you might look at your lever and say, okay, our PPC, I think I'm only about 70% good at PPC. What would happen if I was 100% good at PPC? Or what would happen if my listing images were optimized to 100%, or my listing itself, my SEO is optimized to 100%? So what Data Dive is going to do is it's going to help you identify what levers are you pulling. Are they pulled to the maximum amount? And if they're not, what can we do to improve that? So I think this is a good segue. I don't know if there's any questions first. What I would love is from anyone who's here in the audience, I can answer a couple questions first, but if anyone has an idea for a product, a product that they'd like to see optimized, if they want to drop it into the chat. Otherwise, I'll just pick something random.
Yeah, so while we have few moments, we can wait for a few comments. Drop us ASIN or name of the product or the niche. We will figure it out. I wanted to ask, what would be, Anthony, your suggestion for completely new beginner seller? Because it looks like it's getting tougher. And let's say a seller has maybe $20,000 or euros to invest, which could be probably sufficient to start and risk investing in this kind of business, but it sounds like it's getting tougher.
I think it is. I think the advantage is a lot of your audience is in EU, and so US is extremely competitive. I'm not saying that I wouldn't advise someone to launch a product in the US. I see people launching, our students inside Seller Systems, I see them launching products all the time, and people are definitely still making money. It's harder than it was in the past. It's not as easy, but if you spend the time, you can do well. EU is still a lot less competitive than the US. I'm working on launching a couple products in the EU for getting in time for Q4, and the level of competition is just not the same as the US. So think about the history that I just walked you through, and I would think that the EU is probably somewhere in like the early days, right? That we're still working there. Almost every product is on Amazon, but it's not optimized to the level always as some US marketplace. It's not the same. It's not true for every product in every category. Like supplements are still competitive in Europe, right? Like there's still a lot of categories that are to the level, if not higher than the US, but for certain products, there's a lot more opportunity, I think.
Yeah, we have a question from B Deal. Is there a way to start Amazon business with $1,000 and still earn 100 or 50 per day? And so maybe not, to get maybe income 150, it's possible, but if you want to make profit, probably it will take a long time.
Yeah, I think it's possible. It's not a big budget. One of the things, I don't know if we'll have time to go through it today, but we have a product scorecard inside a Data Dive and a profits tool that'll actually estimate the risk level of a niche, and it'll tell you how much it costs to launch the product. One of our sales reps, Bryant, at Data Dive, he just launched, this was the beginning of this year, he launched a product, and I don't think he did it for $1,000, but I think his initial inventory PO was about maybe $2,000. And so he's making more than $100 a day, I would say, and it's a very profitable product. It was a home goods product, so not a lot of design differentiation that you can do. And the first launch went very well, and he just launched 7 new ASINs all inside of that thread. We have some videos on our YouTube channel that kind of walk through that case study. So it's definitely possible. He did have to look through dozens and dozens of product ideas before he was able to find something that was it was very not competitive niche and a very low budget required to launch. But it's also a very small product, a very cheap product. I think each unit is like under $1. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just type in cat tree here in Amazon, and I'm going to do a live example of kind of what the workflow would look like for data dive. And we're going to try to knock this out in the next like 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, so I'm looking for a cat tree. And let's go through, we're going to do a live example. Let me make sure my tray is cleared out. And so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the process of like validation, launch, and optimize. And I'm going to try to do this like in the next half hour. So we're going to go pretty quick. And then if there's any Q&A, people can ask in the end. So everything inside of Data Dive runs through the Chrome extension. You can see that I have it added here. And everything that right now is going to start inside of the Amazon platform with selecting your dive and what we call seeding your dive. So basically what I'm doing is I'm looking for, I want to go and do an analysis of this niche for cat tree. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select 15 plus of the most relevant organic rank competitors. So I don't want to choose any of these sponsored results. I want to choose the ones that are showing up organically. And I'm going to click on this button underneath each product that says add to tray. And then this is going to add these products to my research. So, all right, we're just going to go keep selecting these. And you can see as I'm adding them, they're being added to my tray. I'm going to try to get like 30 on this just so we can get a good breakdown. And then we'll do the analysis.
So this is a Chrome extension of Data Dive, which offers this additional functionality on the listings, on the search results. And yeah, Data Dive, by the way, you will find the link below in the description to this tool, and you can read more about what it does and how does it help Amazon sellers.
Cool. So I think I went a little bit over 30. I have 33 inside of my niche. And so now that I've done that, I'm just going to click over here to my ASIN tray. I can see all of the products that I've added, and then I can create a new niche, and I'm going to call this cat tree orange click, and I'm going to click dive. So kind of, we're going to get into some of the, I had that intro earlier because it's all, success on Amazon now is all about time utilization. So if you are spending your time and using your time efficiently, going into your business every single day, taking actions to improve, all of those different levers that I was talking about, you're going to see these marginal gains over time that stack up more and more and more and more. The real advantage with Data Dive, a lot of people ask, how is this different from other software tools out there like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout? And what you're going to find, and I'm going to show you right now, is that it makes the process for validating product ideas, optimizing products, launching products, it makes it a lot faster. And you're going to be able to compare things that I'm showing you right now. Think about how long it would take you to go and execute on these tasks if you were doing them manually. So, things that used to take hours before, now with Data Dive are only going to take you minutes. And where the tool is moving in the future is eventually these things are going to be totally automated. So here we are. Okay, we just went through a new product update. So things are looking really clean inside of here. We just updated this. I think today I saw the notification come through. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit and walk you through, do a little bit of a tour of Data Dive. So this is what we call the master keyword list. And the master keyword list is really a full breakdown of all of the different ways people are searching for a product in a niche. So I can see here that for this niche for cat tree, there's 482 different ways that people are searching for this product. So I can see all of those different ways if I scroll down here. And then underneath each competitor, we can see what their organic rank is for these keywords. So this brand is doing very well. For cat tree, they're in position number 1. For small cat tree, which is right here, it's showing up blank with no number next to it. This means that they're not indexed. They're indexed out of the top 101 positions for this keyword. So we get a lot of questions about the color coding. Essentially, the color coding red is going to mean high competition and green is going to be low competition. So if this is your product, you ideally want your columns to be all red, all ones completely down the row. And if they're your competitors, you would ideally like them to be all greens, not indexed. This really isn't rocket science. You don't have to have a advanced knowledge of Amazon to comprehend this. But like, if we have this search term here, cat tree, with a little over 1.3 million searches a month, would you rather be showing up in position 61 for that keyword, or would you rather be indexed in position 1 for that keyword? Obviously, position 1 is going to get you a lot more sales. So the whole name of the game with selling on Amazon is, what do I got to do to increase my organic rank? And how do I increase my organic rank for the largest percentage of this master keyword list as possible? So if I scroll down a little bit more, you'll see that we have this metric here inside Data Dive. This is, I think, the most important metric that I look at from a selling standpoint, and that is the percentage of keywords out of this master keyword list that a seller's ranked on page 1 for. That's within the top 45 positions. So you can see here that this seller, out of all 482 keywords, this seller is ranked on page 1 for 88% of that list. And I think I should be looking, where did my SB on page 1 go? Maybe they just put it here. So before these were two separate things, but I can see this is 88%. Now, getting into a little bit deeper of a breakdown, the first thing that I want to do is validate this product, see if it's a good idea to launch this product. I can look at these metrics here, the keywords on page 1 and the percentage of search volume on page 1, and you can see that we give you a breakdown here. So anyone who's very strong, that's red, they're ranked on page 1 for 80+% of the search volume. Anyone who's strong, that's the orange, is 60+%. Anyone who's weak is 40+%, and anyone who's very weak is only 20+%. So already when I look at this niche, if I was thinking, hey, does it make sense to launch a product into this niche? Well, I can already see that there's 11 very strong sellers in this niche. These sellers are going to be really difficult to beat. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of money. Versus if I came into a niche, and this is getting into that example that I was talking about earlier, about if the guy on the sales team, Bryant, who launched a product with $1,000, when he looked at his niche, it was kind of the opposite of this. There was very few, if any, very strong sellers, and most of the sellers were very weak. So this is one of the things that we can do right off the bat, is we can get an idea of like, how competitive is this niche? I'm not going to spend too much time on validation today, but I think I just recorded a video with Lisette. Very soon, you're going to see 3 new videos come out where I actually explain the full process of product validation, the full process of product launching, and the full process of optimization. But just really quick, this is, again, getting to those data points that you find helpful a lot faster. You can already get a lot of really good information just looking here at the overview tab. I can see that if I wanted to launch a product into this niche, that the number of units sold is massive, the revenue is massive, which means this is going to be a really high budget required to launch this product. I can see that the reviews are already very competitive. Median reviews of 1,800 is very high star rating. I can see that a majority of the sellers for this product, almost 70%, are based out of China. So I can kind of get an idea for if the price is much lower on average than I feel like I'm going to be able to sell at, and that's going to be a big risk. I can get an idea of how competitive the niche is as a whole. So on average, 76% search volume competition strength is really high, as well as this is what I was showing you before with the breakdown of sellers by strength. If I want to sell a product into this niche, not only am I going to need a huge budget, not only is this already super competitive from reviews, but there's basically 14 plus 11 is like 25. There's 25 strong or very strong sellers that I'm going to have to deliver better metrics, better click-through rate, better conversion rate, better revenue before I can compete with these sellers. The other thing to really keep in mind about this is you can see the distribution of search volume by route here. And what you notice is that almost all of the searches for this product come from cat tree. And then after that, it's cat tower. And then there's a really big drop off after that. So if I would want to sell a product into this niche, not only do I have to compete against these 25 very established sellers, but I'm going to have to compete all on really 2 main keyword groups. So it's not going to be a lot of opportunity for advancement there. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on validation, but there are parts inside of the tool. We have a product scorecard, which you can fill out, and it'll give you a breakdown, basically a risk score. So you answer a handful of questions, and at the end, you're going to get a score, either positive or negative. The higher a score is positive, it means that product is lower risk. So with the product that Bryant launched, the really inexpensive launch, I think his score on the scorecard was like 1,000. I've done it already for CatTree, and I know that I think this is like a -350 or maybe a -500. So it's giving you an idea of how risky the niche is. We also have something inside of the tool called Profits, which will basically tell you, after you fill it out, what's the budget required to launch this product. Again, I'm not going to get into that too much right now, but this is really the whole reason I gave that intro in the beginning. The better you're able to utilize your time, the more success you're going to see. So if in the past it might take you hours, if not weeks, to analyze a product and to improve the performance, to analyze a product rather, to see how risky it is, with Data Dive, after you've done this 5 or so times, you're going to be able to fill out this product scorecard in about 15 minutes. So you can think now that if I want to launch 5 products next year, you might look through 500 different product opportunities to find 5 that pass validation. Now, instead of having to spend months and months and months going through and validating these products, you're going to be able to do each product niche and get a really good idea of how competitive that niche is in just about 15 to 20 minutes. What I want to focus a little bit on right now, though, is what the process looks like for optimization. I assume that many people watching this channel are currently selling and they're live on Amazon. And so I'm going to take a look at one of these listings, and I'm just going to pretend that one of these products is my brand. So let's go over here. I'm going to pretend that this brand is mine, this Happy and Pets. And I'm going to click on this little pin button here. And this is a brand new feature that we added to Data Dive. And now it's going to show up here as the first result. So let's imagine I'm this seller for a minute. I'm doing very well, right? I'm selling almost 2,000 units a month, $45,000 a month of revenue. But if you compare to the top seller in the niche, I'm not doing very well from that standpoint. You can see that not only am I selling many fewer units, I'm selling a lot less revenue, but the breakdown for why this happens all comes down to this. This seller, you can see their organic ranks are very, very high, right? There's only a few gaps inside of the master keyword list. But for this seller here, they're only ranked on page 1 for 27% of the keywords in the MKL. So I can see main keywords here like CatTree, CatTree, indoor cats, CatTrees, plural. I'm not indexed for any of these keywords at all. So if I want to try to improve my performance on this product, one of the things that I can do is I can go over into the listing builder and start to see if I can diagnose why my organic ranks might be low for some of these keywords. So I'm going to go over here to the listing builder, and I'm going to click populate. And I got to remember what this brand name is. It's Happy. Okay. And I'm going to click on the populate button. And then what it's going to do is it's going to pull the listing from Amazon. And now I can look at this leaderboard here, which basically shows us a breakdown of what we call ranking juice. So ranking juice is a proprietary metric that we developed, and it basically looks at all of the keywords in the listing, and it tells you what is the ranking potential of these different keywords in the listing. So what I can see right now, right, and this is about, again, if you have people on your team and they can go and find these answers faster and fix these problems faster, then they're going to be able to go in and do this day after day after day. And so what I'm looking at right now is I'm looking at this leaderboard, and I can actually see that this listing is actually written pretty well. A lot of sellers might look at this and they might say, I'm never really quite sure when am I done when am I done with optimization? When am I finished? And so right now what I can see is that for the title, they're actually very close to the top in terms of listing ranking juice. And the only thing that really could be improved, I can see here that for their bullets, they're in position 17 out of 34. You can see they're way down here at the bottom of the list. And then the description is way down here in position number 13. So what I can do is I can pull up this menu here, which is showing me my routes, usage, and hits. And so if I scroll all the way down to the bottom here, I can see which keywords I'm currently using and what areas of the listing they're being used in. So I can see I've got like cat tree. This is showing me my title, bullets, and description. And I can see that for a lot of these keywords, I've actually already written them into the listing. So you can see cat tree, I have in the title as an exact match. In fact, I've got a lot of keywords here that I already have exact match keywords for. So there's not a lot of extra work that I could do for the title, but if I scroll over here, I can look at this column for remaining ranking juice. And again, this is just going to really quickly show us what are the keywords that I'm missing from the listing. And if I scroll over, I can see that, okay, cat tree for large cat is going to give me an extra 148,000 ranking juice. And I don't have it right now in my title, bullets, or description. So if I wanted to copy this keyword, I could just drop it straight here. Let's try putting it in the bullets, and let's see if our ranking juice goes up a little bit. I'm just going to put it right here in the end, and then I'm going to show you how the AI will actually do a lot of this listing writing for you. So our bullets now, we've gone, I think it was from 17 up to 10 with just adding that keyword in there. But let's say that we wanted to have the AI do the work for us. What we can do is we can click on this button for AI bullets. And then if I wanted to paste a keyword here, like the one that I was just looking at, tall cat tree for large cat, I think it already had it in bullet point position 4. And if I wanted to duplicate this tab, I'm going to go and try to find a couple more of these and see if we can't get our ranking juice a little bit higher. So I'm going to go over here to the remaining ranking juice. I'm going to try to find a few more keywords. Let's see. So this is tall cat tower for large cats. And drop that here in bullet point number 5. And then if I click generate, now what DataDive is going to do is it's going to look at what the keyword root is. It's going to write it into the bullets in an exact match. And then it's going to use AI to generate text that sounds a little bit more human sounding. So we're going to let this thing run, and we're going to see how it does for optimizing our bullet points.
Is this a pretty new feature, this AI integration into DataDive?
It is. Yep. Yeah, this has been out for, I think, maybe 6 months or so now. It's always getting a little bit better. And so you can see that what's happened here is after putting these bullet points, here's the input keyword, here's what the AI copywriter has made me, and then it's showing me what the ranking juice is per bullet point. And I can keep modifying this if I want. I can either generate new versions. I can even modify the prompt here. So you'll notice that these bullet points are a little bit short. I could change what I want the bullet point length to be. And I can even click on this optimize button, and that'll help me select different keywords that aren't currently used in other parts of the listing. So if I click use in listing, you can see that we're about at the same level here, but now I have a pretty clear pathway for if I'd want to go and find more keywords to get my ranking juice higher, I could just go through multiple iterations of selecting those different keywords. So we've gone up a little bit. We could do some more work here. Like if I wanted to optimize the title, again, I could just click on this AI copywriter button. It'll rewrite the whole listing, and it'll make me a title that'll probably be in position 1. Let's see if it does it.
And do users have unlimited possibilities to use AI buttons, or there are different limits depending on what plan they are choosing?
Yeah, so it would, it is all consumption based. So with every plan, you get a different amount of credits. The standard plan is the plan that most people are going to be in. And I believe it gives you like 15 AI copywriter tasks a month, but you're able to increase the number of tasks that you do. So I think like you can add 60 extra in a month, and it's like $15. So the AI tasks are very, very inexpensive.
Cool.
So we've spent a little bit of time optimizing this listing. You can see that just with the AI, we're able to get into position 1 overall. I'd probably spend a little bit more time on bullets and description, kind of working with the AI. What you would want to do from here, though, and kind of what I was seeing in this listing from an optimization standpoint is for some reason, there's keywords that are written into the listing, like cat tree is definitely there, cat trees plural is definitely there, but we're still not indexed for this keyword. So what you have to think about from this standpoint is that there's 4 metrics that are going to drive where your organic position is on Amazon. Basically, Amazon wants to know if someone types in cat tree, who deserves to be in that top position. And that's all going to come down to, once you have this keyword written in your listing, which they've checked that box off, that keyword is already in the title in an exact match. Now Amazon is going to look at who's giving me the highest click-through rate, who's giving me the highest conversion rate, and who's giving me the highest revenue on a monthly basis. So in this case, this seller can't go and rewrite cat tree into the listing again. They're going to have to improve the performance on these keywords. They're going to have to get more clicks, more conversions, and more revenue on a monthly basis. So what we can do to optimize click-through rate and conversion rate, one of the areas of data dive that I like the most is called deep dive. And so I can come inside deep dive and I can see all of the competitor image galleries all in one spot. And so if I click these arrows that are pointing towards each other, I can see what are the different types of main images that people have for the product. What are the different types of secondary images, right? Like here's one version of a sizing graphic. Here's another version of another sizing graphic. So if I scroll down and try to find that brand for Happy Pets, I feel like this listing looks pretty good, right? Like this is a really clean main image. Maybe these graphics could be a little bit more simple, but I don't see anything that is a huge glaring issue here at this point. Now, right now, obviously, I'm not selling this product, so I won't be able to dig in and find the PPC campaigns. But the next step after this is like, okay, we've checked the listing for SEO. The SEO is fine. We're looking at the click-through rate, the conversion rate. We're trying to diagnose and look at that here. Like their image gallery seems to be generally fine. The only last thing that we can do is really look at what are we doing from a PPC standpoint? Are we being aggressive enough with the PPC campaigns that we're running? And is that allowing us to get enough sales velocity to get indexed and ranked for these keywords? So I'm obviously not going to be able to show you inside of the back end of the PPC, but I do have another example that I'll show you at the end. What I do want to show is kind of the last thing that you would do here, which is going to be to set up rank tracking. So if I go over here into Rank Radar is the tracking tool inside of Data Dive. And if I paste in this ASIN, it's going to go and find it. And then I can select the master keyword list for cat tree orange click, and I can click start tracking. And so now I'm able to keep a pulse on how the keyword ranks are changing over time for this product. And so you can see here, the data is blank because it hasn't started tracking anything yet. But if I go over to another example here, this is one I've been tracking for a little bit longer. You're going to see that it's going to show you daily organic ranks for the product. And let's say that I was missing something in the listing. I'm able to add these highlights on. So cat tree for indoor cat, you can see that I added a highlight here. So you get this little box that shows up around. And let's say that I added a keyword into the listing. I'd want to see how the performance improves over time. Now, what I'm not showing right now, though, is kind of that last piece that I was talking about, which is revenue. And so right now, I don't have a PPC account connected, but if I did, you can see if I go over here, it would actually show up. It would show me what PPC campaigns I'm running overlaid with my organic ranks. So again, allowing me to get to these insights a lot faster. But I just want to show this screenshot really quick that shows what this dashboard looks like when you connect your PPC account to Data Dive. So on the right-hand side, you'll see we've got all of our organic ranks over here. But then it's also now showing me directly overlaid. It's showing me things like what my impression rank looks like, my impression share. I can see exactly how many exact phrase broad auto campaigns. I can see what my click-through rate is. I can see what my conversion rate is. And what this is helpful for, let's imagine that this is for the cat tree. What we'd want to do is we'd want to look and we'd want to see, wait a minute, for this keyword here, I'm not indexed at all. And my conversion rate is 33%. It's actually one of the highest conversion rates out of everything here in this in this sheet. But then when I look at my impression rank, I'm in impression rank. My impression rank is 10, and my impression share is only 0.4%, and I'm only running one broad campaign. So wouldn't it make sense if I'm getting a really good click-through rate, I'm getting a really good conversion rate, and I'm not indexed for these keywords, that I would either increase my bids, or I would go do something like top of search, or expand my campaign types out to see if I can get more sales velocity from this keyword. And then I'll be wanting to check in here to see if my organic ranks improve over time. Now, what I'm guessing with this product is, and I was able to, I think, arrive at this pretty quick, is that the issue that is going on here actually has very little to do with how the listing is written. We could check that box off from looking at Ranking Juice and see, well, the listing has all the main keyword roots. They're in the right match type. Ranking Juice is looking high. So if I want to improve the performance of this, it's not listing SEO. I'm looking at the image galleries. It doesn't really seem to be, the images seem totally fine. I'm looking at the price point relative to the average of the niche, and I can see that we're actually below the price point. So I'm not seeing any glaring issues that are going to affect click-through rate or conversion rate. I don't have insights into the PPC, so I'd want to go and look at that if I had an account that was connected. What I'm guessing actually is the problem here is something a little bit deeper. Anytime that I'm seeing the percentage of search volume on page 1 this low, and there's major keywords here that they're not indexed at all for, this is going to typically mean to me that this is a catalog issue. There's a handful of videos. There might have even been videos on the YouTube channel from like Vanessa Hong that explain how to fix cataloging issues. There's a bunch of things in the back end of Amazon that if they don't match up, if they don't line up, it can actually prohibit you from getting indexed for keywords that are definitely very relevant. So if I was this seller, that's something that I would want to dig into. I've checked the SEO, I've checked click-through rate, I've checked conversion rate. Pending, I would check revenue. And now I have some roadmap of how I would improve the product. I don't know if we have any questions, but I just want to show 2 more things here. One thing I want to show is the PPC campaigns for launch. And then the last thing is this AI product brief. And then I feel like we've done a pretty good breakdown of the tool. So the PPC campaigns for launch, I'm going to get back to this tab in a minute. I just have to import this MKL, the master keyword list. And basically, let's say that this seller, for whatever reason, wasn't running PPC campaigns. Maybe they were running out of stock on the product. They wanted to slow down sales velocity, or they've just never run these PPC campaigns in the past. Again, Data Dive is going to make it really fast to create these PPC campaigns, these exact match campaigns to start. So if I click on these check boxes here for cat tree, cat tower, basically what I'm doing is I'm selecting my main keyword roots. So I define a keyword root as 2 or more words. That's a unique way of describing a product. And I'm just clicking the checkbox next to these. You can see that I've already selected 4. And then just like that, I scroll down. I can set the parameters for my campaign, what I want the bidding strategy to be, what I want my budget to be. And then just based off of these 4 keywords, Data Dive has already made me some campaigns, 39 campaigns that are covering 268 keywords for 3.7 million searches a month. And then all I have to do is if I connect my PPC account, I can send these straight to Amazon. The last thing that I want to show really fast is this AI product brief. So again, let's say that, okay, I'm going to go fix the catalog issues. I don't really have too much to do with, to improve the listing from an SEO standpoint. Let's say that I did want to take another swing at the images to make my images better, to make my A+ content better, or I just wanted to develop this product and try to make something that's better than the competitors. What I can do is I just select the top 10 competitors. I click Analyze Selected Competitors. This is going to run in the background. It usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes to run. And then when it's finished, it's going to tell me what are the most important features of the product, what do customers like about the product, what do they dislike, ways to improve the product, and then customer avatars. So what are the most common groups of people that buy this product? So I'm going to let that run in the background. I feel like this is a good spot to take a break, and this is kind of where we'll wrap things up. If it does seem like there's a lot going on here, just imagine, right? The first time you use any software, it's going to be really complicated. You're not going to know how to do things. In the other 3 videos that I recorded with Lisette, I have really clear timelines of how long this should take you. And what you're going to notice is that what I say is that the first time you do it, it's going to take you like 30 to 45 minutes. It's going to be really slow. You're not going to know where anything is. But once you've done this 5+ times, you're going to get a lot better. And I would assume that, I've literally talked to hundreds and probably thousands of users since I started here at DataDive. If you're curious about something, go sign up for the trial or just sign up for the subscription. When you sign up, you'll be able to do an onboarding call with the team. They'll do, just like I was doing here, a live example on the cat tree. They'll do a live example with your product, and you'll be able to get things from that call, even if you don't use DataDive, that you can start implementing in your business right away. Very actionable. So that's everything I got, Augustus.
Yeah, we have few questions, but while you're resting, I wanted just to mention that if you want to try DataDive for yourself, you'll find the link below in the description. There will be also a discount code where you can get 20% off your monthly subscription to DataDive. And we do have a nice comment by Sam. He says, looks like we need a full course just to learn DataDive.
There's definitely a learning curve, Sam. I won't try to tell you any differently than that. But what I will say is this last stage of Amazon selling that we're in, this software boom, the sellers that do well are the ones that buckle down. They spend the time to learn these software tools. Where I think we're going inside of 2 years is eventually most parts of this business are going to be fully automated. So just like you saw right there, that DataDive will basically write a perfect listing for you in just a few seconds. Being able to do proper listing SEO used to be a big barrier against the competition. Now DataDive is just going to do this for you. Over time, like PPC is going to get more automated. This competitor research that I just, am I still sharing my screen?
Yeah, you're sharing. It's loaded. Yeah.
Right. Like back in the day, you used to have someone on your team that would actually spend the time to go and read reviews. Now DataDive has just read all of the reviews for the competitors that I've selected, and it's given me all of this, like something that would take weeks or even at least days to go through. It's telling me like, here's what everyone likes about the listing. Here's what people, here's the most important features of the product. Here's what people like about the product. Here's what people dislike. These used to be skills that, that you had to develop. Now, for some of these things, it's just going to give you the answer. So I would yes, there is a learning curve. We have videos on the YouTube channel that explain it. I do office hours 3 times a week for DataDive. Commit to yourself that you're going to learn this. It's going to save you a lot of time in the long run, and you'll be very happy you did.
And cool, thanks. And Sam is asking if you need to connect DataDive to MWS.
I'm not sure. Maybe they mean...
Is this so? I think it's this authentication to the account, I think, but
yeah. So when you connect your PPC account, it's going to take you through. There's like, I'll show real quick, right? So if I come over here and then I click on this setup connections button, you can just see that in impression ranks. If I go to setup connections, you can see I already have this account connected, but it's just going to ask you these 4 questions. So you basically just go through these. You connect these, and then it'll automatically pull in everything for you.
All right. Okay. And the honest FBA seller, he was asking, what are the best creatives for Prime Day?
So first thing I'll say is that I wouldn't wait until Prime Day to try to get in a good position. I would be testing leading up to Prime Day. So I don't know what the best creatives for Prime Day are. They're ideally going to be your best images. So like, for example, the products that I'm working on right now, we're working right now to get our images ready for Q4. And the way that I look at it is right now it's May. So if we come up with new creatives, we're testing every single month. We're rotating out the order of our images. We're adding in new images. We're using manager experiments to A/B test our main image and our A+ content. And like, we are always running a test at all times on all of the products, at least one manager experiment. And the point of doing that is like, we're going to spend the next 6 months figuring out what's the best, so that when we get into Q4, we've already tested and we know this is our best main image. This is the best version of A+ content. I think there are some opportunities when you get around the holidays to have custom image sets that are related to that holiday. So when we get into Q4, there's going to be a lot more gifting or talking about Christmas or holiday graphics. I would figure that out before. If you're getting up to Prime Day, which is, it's going to be like a month from now, right? If you get to Prime Day and you're like, what's the best images to put in my listing, or what's the best version of your A+, you're already too late. There's probably already competitors in your niche that have been testing. Always be testing and try to figure out those answers. I wish I had a better answer for you there, but it's very honest.
All right. Sam has another question. If you still have a few minutes.
Yep.
Considering that Chinese direct factories are competing with the US sellers, how do you suggest we find amazing product ideas nowadays?
Yeah. So that's something that Data Dive will actually show you inside the tool. It'll show you the seller's country. Competing with the Chinese sellers is tricky. And just like I was saying that the wave of automation is just making everything easier. So like they're better at creating brands, they're better at creating images. What you have to think though is if you're competing directly against a factory, their real advantage is price. And so you have to be able to develop products and brands that people relate to better than what these Chinese sellers are. So in some categories, that's easier said than done, but I see many categories, at least in the US, where the market is dominated not by Chinese sellers, but it's dominated by US sellers. What I would recommend is if you're trying to find products is I would look for categories where if there are a large percentage of Chinese sellers in that niche, that they're not winning based on price. So in the video that I recorded with Lisette on validation, you're going to see there's a children's binocular example. And so you can see that like all of the Chinese sellers are selling this product, kids binoculars, for like $5, $6, and all of the US sellers are like $10 plus. And so going through proper validation, if you go into a niche like that and saying, you know what, I'm not even going to be able to be price competitive as a US seller, those are products that you should probably think about avoiding and just keep going through more and more product ideas. There's no simple way to say this. I mean, there's no easy way to do this aside from if you want to, like what we teach inside Inner Circle, inside Seller Systems, is if you're going to launch one product, you're going to look through 100 product opportunities. So that means going through the validation workflow that we have, and you're going to have to do that. You know, you might have to find 100 different product opportunities and just see what the numbers tell you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Anthony. You mentioned Seller Systems. So there is Data Dive, and what is Seller Systems?
Yeah, so Seller Systems is our course. It's a community. We have more than 1,000 students in it. More than 300 of them are 7- and 8-figure sellers, so doing more than $1 million US a year in revenue. And it's a course. And then we also have like weekly Ask Me Anything. Everything for Data Dive came out of Seller Systems. So we started out Data Dive for our students. We created this concept of a master keyword list, and we actually created Data Dive specifically for our students in Google Sheets. And we actually reached 1,500 users for Data Dive in a beta in Google Sheets. So the tool's gotten a lot better since then. The way that we look at it is we kind of have like this triangle where we sell products ourselves. We've got a community of students that also sell products. We basically take what we learn from our own brands, we take what we learn from the students, and we use that to build our software. So that's why, like compared to other tools in the industry, we're building tools that legitimately help sellers because we are sellers ourselves first, and we still sell.
Yeah, cool. Thank you very much, Anthony. And I wanted to mention that anyone who wants to try Data Dive, you will find the link below in the description, together with a coupon code OrangeClick, which will give you 20% off. So thanks a lot, Anthony. It's nice to have you again here back on our channel, and good luck in your business. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much, Augustus. See you later.
Bye. And now I would like to invite you to watch other video where you will learn more about Data Dive features. It's a full demo walkthrough and just another video with Anthony and this amazing tool. So check this out.